What's going on, Swoopers? Welcome back to another episode of Swoop Luke. In this episode, we'll be going over the huge win against St Kilda. So let's run that intro and jump straight into it. Just before we do jump straight into it, a couple of housekeeping things that I have to go over. If you're new to this channel, please consider hitting that subscribe button and hitting that notification bell. You'll get a pop-up whenever my videos go up. And if you haven't already, go onto my Twitch, which is, just search Swoop Luke on Twitch. I'll be streaming every few days. I'm hoping to do about 3 or 4 streams a week, and they'll include, FIFA 20 streams. I'll be doing some AFL Evo streams, and I will be doing a FIFA 20 career series with Collingwood, which will be very exciting. Hopefully starting that by week's end. Anyway, all that's done, let's just jump into this review now. So this game was pretty much a tale of two halves. Not that the second half was a bad tale, it was just a tale nonetheless. In the first half, we put on 10 goals, and we were just kicking them. We kicked 5 goals. I think it was 5 goals, 4 in that first quarter. Anyway, we kicked pretty much our total for last week's game against Richmond in the first quarter against St Kilda, and we were just putting on a show for anyone who said that we were playing boring defensive football last week. What was good about this game was not only did we show that we could match our defensive abilities from last week and kept St Kilda to under 40 points, but we can attack when we need to. In that second half, which is the second half of the tale, we only kicked 2 goals for that entire half of footy, and it wasn't for lack of trying. I just think that we started to play into St Kilda's game plan a little bit more. We let them have a little bit more run with the ball, a little bit more movement. But the most underrated defensive side, or the defensive 6 in the competition, really stood up when it counted, only letting in 1 St Kilda goal in that second half. Like I said, there's a lot to love about this game. Steve-O came back, our forwards were on fire, defensive abilities, Braden Maynard's 100th. So you can kind of excuse that slowish second half. We put all our efforts in that first half, really put St Kilda kind of to the sword. Could have finished them off a little bit earlier, but we did have them on the ropes at half time, and I think our job was done by half time. There was no way they were coming back. So you can understand why we let off the gas a little bit. But if you do that to a good opposition side, but who knows who a good opposition side is this season? Is it Gold Coast, who are currently smashing Adelaide and going to finish top 3? Is it Port Adelaide? It's not Richmond. It's not West Coast at the moment. But like I said, if you do that against a team that is willing to take you on when they're down a little bit, you will get rebuffed and you will get counter-attacked, and that kind of comes to bite you back on the ass. But thankfully, it didn't last night. There was a lot to love about the game against St Kilda. I picked out a couple of my favourites, things from Saturday afternoon's game. In the comments below, let me know your favourite things. But here are my top 4. Our forward line finally living up to the name of 2018 that they built, and to an extent 2019. We had 8 individual goal kickers, a couple of them snagging 2. Elliott kicked 2, Stevenson kicked 2, Adams kicked 2, Checkers kicked 2, Tyler Brown, Callum, and a couple of other guys kicked 1. I'm not going to name every single person, but our forward line really stood up. Will Hoskin-Elliott didn't hit the scoreboard, but he had a couple of goal assists, a couple of tackles, so you can see why he's still being kept in that team, because he is a smart footballer. What I did like about the forward line as well was that it was a little bit more dynamic. They backed the ability a little bit better. You could see Myercheck was hitting him from 50 metres and kicking goals when he wasn't doing that against Richmond. We know that play where he stuffed it up and we didn't get a goal out of it. But I liked how with Steve-O in there as well, we're a little bit more smaller, a little bit more quicker, and just more dynamic with Myercheck, the focal point. Another thing I love that we've been doing well since round 1 this season, and it was kind of more prevalent against St Kilda, was our transition from defense to offense. Our little handballing things, if you follow my Instagram at Swoop Luke, you'll see that I always put up videos of us handballing these little chains and just getting out of trouble, not with bombing it long, not with kicking it into the corridor, just with these little handballs. And when it works, it looks beautiful. Sometimes it won't work, but there's no reward without risk. So you got to risk it for the biscuit. Tyler Brown kicked his first of many goals, and it wasn't just a goal where it was a free kick or it was just, straight in front. He sold some candy, took the Saints to the candy shop, slotted a beautiful goal. He is just becoming a player and a half. You can see why he's still in the team. Doesn't rack up a lot of disposals, kind of like Will Hoskin-Elliott, but he's contributing in clearances, tackles, and pressure acts. He'll only get better. Sometimes he's playing straight through the center. Sometimes it's off that wing, interchange between Dacos and his brother Callum. But that's why we have that versatility of him, and that's why I like him in the team. Last week in my review video, I was talking about how our tackling pressure has been absolutely shithouse. We finished Richmond's game with under 30 tackles. They had over 70 tackles. We brought in Rupert Wills exactly for this. He finished with 4 tackles. Sidebottom and Braden Maynard finished with 6 tackles each. And we finished for the first time this season with over 50 tackles. And we had more than our opposition, which is always really nice. What that does, like I said last week, puts pressure on the opposition with the ball, creates a 50-50 or it creates a turnover, and it gives us, first use of the ball or a dead ball where we can get that use back. So with Wills in the team, obviously that's what he was there for. He did a good job, and everyone just rallied around, tackling, just relentless, and it was just really great to see. Especially tackling in the forward 50, that's where you want to take most of your tackles. You create those goal opportunities, and we did that really well as well. So my dislikes, there wasn't a lot to dislike about this game because we were on top for most of the game. Yes, that second half, and that's, segues into my first dislike, which I touched on a little bit before. We have this habit of getting ourselves into a great position, scoreboard wise or the way we're going about it wise, and we put the team to the sword and we just don't land that knockout blow, which is gonna come back to haunt you. Luckily it didn't against the Saints. They just couldn't really keep up with us. But like I said, a better team will take their chances more and knock you out if you don't knock them out first. This kind of comes back to our goal kicking as well. I think we can do a little bit more goal kicking practice at training. I don't really know how much they do, but there was a couple of easy set shots missed. Jamie Elliott missed 2 set shot, well, 1 set shot and 1 on the run where he could have just handed it over to a guy in the middle. But that is that does relate to trying to put the team to the sword. We've got to take our chances whenever we can. This one's a little bit harsh to put in the dislike, but I think it needs to be mentioned, and I'll give you reasons why and why I didn't really want to put it. But at the start of the first quarter, I thought Stevenson was going to kick about 12 goals for this match. He was just on fire. Kicked 2 very nice opening goals in that first quarter, and then poof, that's it. We didn't really see him again. I kind of understand this is only his 3rd AFL game in a whole year. If you remember, round 9 last year was his I think that was his last game before he got banned for those 10 weeks. He's battled glandular fever, he's battled selection, drama, selection issues. Finally made his way to a team. He does have an instant impact. 2 goals, got us off to a perfect start. So we thank him for that. But yeah, I think he could have kicked 4, 5 or 6 goals had he been more prevalent, but I guess that kind of sums up our second half. The last dislike, it is a very, very, very nitpicking one. I know that a side can't be perfect 100% of the time. I know mistakes happen, turnovers happen, but I think that silly turnovers can cost you goals and cost you games. There was a good example with how he went up to smother a ball where Roughhead had it covered. He left his player, Dan Butler, free. Dan Butler got the crumb, kicked the goal, and St Kilda, go a goal for the better. It didn't cost us in the end, but I always keep bringing this up. Do that against a good side, and they'll punish you. Another one was what I mentioned earlier, was Jamie Elliott. He kicked a set shot, absolutely wasn't any good, but he got another opportunity running along the wing, and there was 2 players free in the corridor, instead of hitting him up, he opts to kick it with his right foot on, a left-handed side, so in the right pocket, and he just absolutely sprays it again. So I think these things are something that we need to tighten up a little bit if we're to be a premiership side. So where the game was won, it'd be remiss of me not to mention that brilliant first half. especially that first quarter. You know, kicking 5 goals, which is the total amount of goals we kicked against Richmond in one quarter. We kicked 5 in a row. Stevenson kicked 2, then Ali kicked 2, and then Sidey kicked 1 on his left foot. Brilliant goal. That really set us up. I think the game was won without attacking prowess in that first half. 10 goals to 4. So it's just really simple, you know. You kick goals and you win games. But in saying that, our defense held up really well. At the start of the first quarter, St Kilda got that first goal, but they looked to be putting the pressure on. They looked to be running out of the blocks a lot more like they did against the Western Bulldogs the week before. But our defense really held up. Darcy Moore, Braden Maynard, you know, Jeremy Howe. The list goes on with those guys. All underrated and all played integral parts in us winning this game. So some quick fire special mentions. I thought Jeremy Howe had a great game, took an amazing hanger, couple of intercept possessions, went at 89% disposal efficiency, gained nearly 450 metres, the most on the ground. If he's not a lock for All-Australian, then you can just rip up that jersey, because I don't know who else deserves it more, besides maybe Darcy Moore, than Jeremy Howe. He is the elite defender. There's a lot of talk about it, but he's an elite defender. Another quick shout out to Sidebottom and Taylor Adams, leading by example. Sidey picking up over 30 disposals, kicking a couple of goals. Taylor Adams becoming a prolific goal scorer this season with another 2 goals for his tally, and just in and under, lots of tackling, lots of clearances. Absolutely love him. And finally, Brodie Grundy, 30 hitouts, but he really rucked alone, you know, without Cameron. Cameron supported him, but not to the best of his ability. Grundy really nullified the ruck duo that St Kilda had of Marshall and Paddy Ryder. They didn't do anything up forward. They barely did anything in the ruck, and you know, we kicked, I think, 5 goals 2 or something from clearances. So that's all thanks to Grundy, and that's why we've signed him on for 7 years. So a shout out is in order. On my Instagram at Swoop Luke, on game day I put up you know, for you guys to predict your margin, big call, and you know, correct tip. And Nick Hall 00 guessed Pies by 42, Sidebottom BOG with 30 disposals and a goal. He must have just, you know, went into the future, came back and posted that. So big props to you, dude. That was a fantastic guess for the big call and just all of it, you know. Also, like I said, follow my Twitch. I would really appreciate that. I've got a lot of videos in the works. I'm going to put this video out on Sunday, which is today, and I'm going to try and get a video out on hopefully Monday or Tuesday, just in regards to our amazing defense. I didn't really touch on it here because I want to make it deserves its whole entire video by itself. So we'll get into that a little bit later on in the week. But in the meantime, like, comment, subscribe, tell your family, tell your friends, tell your pets, and until next time, double shackers, I'll swoop you all later.